Hey guys, it's Kyle Thompson here with eXp Realty, bringing you another weekly market update, and this week we're focusing on apartments. Let's dive right in. All right, starting off big picture. Last month we had 48 new listings, 23 new sales. The average list price was $434,509. The average sale price was $420,771. The average sale price to list ratio was 95.67. Average days on market was 86.91. And we ended the month with an inventory of 193 units. So let's take a look at what that does for the market conditions. As always, I like to use both the monthly supply of inventory method as well as the sale to new list ratio, as I find that using both measures gives a more complete picture of what's going on in the market. With that said, using the monthly supply of inventory method, last month we came in at 8.55, which puts us squarely into a buyer's market. If we use the sales to new list ratio instead, we came in at 48%, which puts us into a neutral market. Now, let's take a look at the active inventory last month. New listings fell month over month from 59 down to 48. Sales also fell from 28 down to 23. Expireds ticked up from 8 up to 9. And the benchmark price for an apartment in Kamloops rose $15,600 from $363,100 up to $378,700. Now let's take a look at the end of month inventory. Last month, we ended the month with an inventory of 193 units, which is the second highest over the past decade for this time of the year, only behind 2016. And currently, we are about 41% above the trailing 10-year average of 137. If we look at new listings instead, we see that so far year to date, there's been 459, which is the second highest in the past decade, year to date, and only behind 2021. And currently we're sitting about 25% above the trailing 10-year average of 367. If we take a look at sales instead, we see that year to date there's been 195, which is the second lowest, behind only 2024. And currently we are sitting about 17% below the trailing 10-year average of 236. Now let's take a look at the sales dashboard, starting off with the average sale price. This table is measuring a full year over full year, year over year. And when looked at that way, prices are up 1.84%, rising from $394,110 in aggregate up to $401,353. Currently, the most expensive areas of town are Juniper, Sun Peaks, and Westside, whereas the cheapest areas of town are South Cam, Brock, and North Cam. Now let's take a look at the sale to list price ratio. So all this is a measure of how much properties are selling below the list price on average, and it's a good proxy for how much negotiating room you have when you are the buyer. With that said, last month, the sale to list price ratio fell about 0.5%, down to 95.67. We're about middle of the road over the last 12 months, but that means there's slightly more negotiating room when you are the buyer. Now let's take a look at sales by sub-area. This table is measuring full year over full year again, and when looked at that way, in aggregate, sales are up about 5%, rising from 258 up to 271. If you would like to take a closer look at the sub-areas, feel free to pause. I'm going to move on to days on market, starting off with the 10-year. So far, year to date, it's taken an average of 66 days for apartments to sell, which is about 5% above the trailing 10-year average of 63. If we look at the trailing 12 months instead, we see that last month it took an average of 87 days for properties to sell, which is the second highest over the past 12 months. And currently we're sitting about 30% above the trailing 12-month average of 67. Finally, let's take a look at days on market by sub area. This table is full year over full year again. And when looked at that way, in aggregate, properties are taking about 28% longer to sell, rising from 51 up to 65 year over year. And currently, the fastest selling areas of town are Valley View, Brock, North Cam, and South Cam, all with an average days on market under 50, whereas the areas taking the longest to sell are Dallas, Juniper, and Sun Peaks, with an average days on market ranging between 82 up to 126 days. That's all we have for today. I really hope that you guys are continuing to get value out of these market updates. If you are, please consider liking and subscribing to my YouTube channel. And if you ever feel like you want something added to these market updates, or you feel like maybe something needs to be more thoroughly explained, please feel free to leave your comments or suggestions in the comment section below, and I will get to them as soon as I am able. I appreciate you taking the time, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.